Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the One Shitty Family Podcast. I'm your host, Steve600. Apologies for the lack of an episode last week, but we're back this week, and there's not a lot on paper, but there's one thing that you probably already know what's gonna be discussed this week. We'll get to that in a moment. But before we get to the obvious bit, let's get started with my Switch OLED, and I actually got it back on this past Tuesday, and this is a very, very funny story in itself, because I already talked about the issues that I had with my Switch OLED on the last time I talked about it, but on Sunday, this past Sunday, well, last Sunday, when this episode goes up, I think I identified the cause, because my Switch and Switch Lite, my OG Switch and Switch Lite, were having the same issue, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I was troubleshooting this with some people on Discord, and one person was like, why not connect them to your phone's hotspot, because it seems like your network might be dual channel. I mean, not dual channel, dual band. There we go. So I tried that, and it freaking worked. Everything was working for local stuff, whether it be transferring save data from one Switch to another Switch, matching versions with other local users, or local multiplayer. It all works because they were all on the same network band, even though they're all on the same network. So that solved that problem, and I also discovered that my network is dual band, meaning that that one Switch was connected to a 2.4 gigahertz band, and another Switch was connected to a 5 gigahertz band, and that didn't allow them to connect, even though they were on the same network, which it's kind of confusing, all things considered. But when my Switch OLED came back on Tuesday, I tested the very same things with my phone's hotspot, and I later checked the bandwidth on all three of my Switches, and sure enough, they're not all on the same band, which might have identified the cause of the problem. And I found out about this, just like I said, last Sunday, and Nintendo had already shipped my unit back to me. Well, started to ship my unit back to me. I got a new unit regardless, and I am very much loving it. All the positives that I said last time I talked about the OLED still hold up. The screen is great. The speakers are actually really good. I never really got to test them thoroughly, but the speakers are excellent on the OLED model. Build quality is much better. The kickstand, actually good. It's actually freaking usable about damn time. The upgraded storage is definitely welcome. 64 gigs is still kind of tight, but it's better than how it was before. And the battery life, my god, the battery life has been superb. Like, I never got the 2019 refresh Switch, which got the better battery life. And the Switch OLED supposedly has the same battery life as the 2019 model. But like I said, I never got to have the 2019 model for myself. I bought one, but that was for my sister. So I've had the launch Switch and the Switch Lite ever since they pretty much came out. And so, yeah, so having this new Switch that actually has good battery life in handheld mode is really refreshing. So it actually feels good to play Switch games in handheld mode without having to worry about the charger nowhere near as often. Like, I was using it for most of the day on Thanksgiving, and by the time I got home from dinner with my cousins, I was only down in the mid-30s, and I have been using it pretty much since like 10 a.m. So having it for that long, having the battery life last that long, is just amazing. Like, I was playing nothing but Brilliant Diamond the entire day, so that is pretty slick. I'm really liking just overall, the OLED model is just, it's a very nice upgrade. But I feel like for most people, if you feel like you don't need it, then you probably don't need to get it. Like, if you have a launch model Switch, then it might be worth tracking one down. If you have a Switch Lite, then I'd say that's probably the best use case for wanting to go for it. But if you have a 2019 Switch, then you don't need it. Anyway, so getting past that stuff, as a new trailer for the second half of Pokemon Evolutions came out earlier this week as well. They went so hard on the sharer. It's actually insane. The episodes look amazing. Now, if we need a refresh, the last 4 episodes are The Rival in Sinnoh, The Wish in Hoenn, I almost said Unova, The Show in Johto, and finally to end things off, The Discovery in Kanto, with each episode coming out on December 2nd, December 9th, 16th, and 23rd, respectively. So, December is going to be a pretty packed month for Pokemon. At least for Pokemon Evolutions, the footage that we've seen looks absolutely amazing. I honestly cannot wait for these. My favorite still is the Alola episode, but I've actually been really enjoying Evolutions, so that's pretty cool. So all this looks really promising. All right, last week saw many anniversaries for different Pokemon releases, like 2 years since Sword and Shield, 3 years since Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, 4 years since Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and 5 years since Sun and Moon. So I feel like we should probably take a little bit of time to reminisce about Gen 7 specifically. Because we're still in the middle of Gen 8, so I feel like, with Sword and Shield still getting support, even after the release of Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, and with Legends coming up as well. I feel like we'll give our final thoughts on Sword and Shield once the generation concludes, but for right now, let's just talk about Gen 7, because I fucking love Generation 7. Like, I actually just finished my replay of Pokemon Sun this past Wednesday, and oh my god, it's still just as fun as I remember it. Like, I started this replay back in October on the 24th, and I finished it on November 24th, which in itself was 5 years since I finished my first replay of Sun. Like, I finished my first playthrough of Sun and my replay of Sun on the same exact date. So November 24th, 2016 for my first playthrough of Sun and Moon, and November 24th, 2021 for my replay of Sun. This cannot be a coincidence. And yeah, it was just all very good fun. I personally, this is honestly one of my favorite generations. It's like my second favorite generation, right in between Gen 4 and Gen 8, respectively. Gen 4, of course, being my favorite, but Gen 8 is definitely getting up there with Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, and Sword and Shield. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what Legends has in store, and I feel like that might surpass Gen 4, but of course, we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But in regards back to Generation 7, like I said, Sun and Moon was just excellent. The story was honestly one of the best that we've gotten. I kind of prefer Sun and Moon's story to Black and White. I know Black and White has been widely regarded as one of the best stories we've gotten in the main series Pokemon game, but Sun and Moon just feel a little more homey to me, and it just has more of a family vibe, and honestly, I kind of like that more. Like, there's just something about Sun and Moon that just keeps me wanting to go back to it, and the Alola region as a whole. The Pokemon are amazing. I love the idea of Alola forms. Alolan Vulpix is still my baby. And of course, my favorite Pokemon is from that generation, so extra points. So of course, extra points there. And it's just overall, it's just a phenomenal game. And Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, it gets a lot of crap for being an enhanced version, but for those who are following the Pokemon news around 2017, and you probably remember, many people just are absolutely speculating the hell out of the idea of an enhanced version for Alola, which is exactly what we got in 2017. It was a weird time to be a Pokemon fan in mid-2017 specifically, because we saw the announcement of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in early June, and then confirmation of a main series game in development for the Switch at E3 for 2018, which would of course be Let's Go. So that kind of, I don't know, that definitely helped with cannibalizing the sales of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It didn't sell all that great. It sold like, what were the sales of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Now I'm curious. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon sales. Let's see here. So Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon sold about 8.77 million units. That's actually not too bad. Let me just go double check that on Cerebee's Twitter page. Make sure that this information is, of course, accurate. Let's take a look here. I gotta go back quite a bit, but yeah, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is my personal most played Pokemon games on the Switch. Not the Switch, the 3DS. Wow, I've been playing so much Switch lately. Like pretty much ever since I finished Sun on my new 3DS XL, it's just been doing nothing but playing Brilliant Diamond. I am gonna get the Shining Pearl eventually, but I want to finish my first playthrough of Brilliant Diamond before I start Shining Pearl, because, you know, this backlog is kind of kicking me right now. But whatever. I personally really love Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's not perfect. Like, the story did get a bit of a downgrade, and but the post game content is just incredible. Like, it's way better than Sun and Moon's post game content. You know, less than 9 million units, so yeah, not really amazing, but I still, like I said, I still love it. The soundtrack for Alola, oh my god, the soundtrack in Alola is freaking amazing. It's honestly one of my favorite soundtracks of any video game ever. It's just so freaking good. Like, I'm still very nostalgic of Alola, even though it's only been 5 years since our first steps into Alola, which is crazy. Now, let's go Pikachu and let's go Eevee. This is a weird game. Like, my opinions of these games have changed wildly ever since they first came out. Like, I was optimistic about these remakes at first, but you know, when Sword and Shield were coming out, I was like, I was pretty negative on these games. You know, it felt like I felt like they were pretty unnecessary, and you know, even now, my opinions are still kind of like that. But you know, I can understand why Game Freak made these games, but it was very much to just capitalize on the the success of Pokemon Go. But it's okay, but it's definitely not a game I want to jump at the chance to play if I were given the chance to play a Pokemon game on Switch. Like, Sword and Shield or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl will definitely be the ones I'll be going for. But it's okay. Like I said, it's okay, but it was a decent transition title from the 3DS to the Switch. It was but as the big Pokemon game for 2018, it was pretty weak in that regard. So I do feel like, well, it's still good. I feel like it's one of the weaker main series Pokemon games. Like, I don't know, like, I still have a hard time between this or Fire Ring Leaf Green for the definitive Kanto experience. But whatever. And again, it's not really meant for people like me, as this was definitely more meant for the casuals as opposed to the hardcore fans. So if you look at it from that regard, then it makes sense, but it's still, I don't know, like, it's still kind of a weird entry. Like, it's cute, but that's all I can really say about it. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the big stuff for this week, which is, of course, the release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. We are finally home after so long. I am at Victory Road right now in Brilliant Diamond, and I have been having such a blast playing it. There's just so much charm in these games. Like, I've come to really love the chibis, actually. Like, the overall aesthetic, I actually really like. The battle backgrounds in particular, definitely the best that we've seen in the series by far. The battles especially look amazing. There are only a couple of backgrounds that look kind of off, but like, a lot of them are really well done. Like, it's not just some big white void like it was for a lot of Sword and Shield. There's an actual background for a lot of places that you're in throughout Sinnoh. The soundtrack is freaking fantastic. Probably the best soundtrack of any Pokemon game. Seriously, like, the remastered soundtrack from Diamond and Pearl is absolutely phenomenal in these remakes. Like, every single song has been a hit in my opinion. Like, I've just been loving every single piece so far, from the lake theme to the opening cutscene. My God, the opening cutscene is absolutely perfect. Like, best opening we've had in the Pokemon game, and there have been some really good openings for main series Pokemon in the past, but Brilliant Diamond Shiny Pearl, like, probably has the best one in my opinion. Like, it's so freaking good. It's just, what else can I say? But something that I didn't notice is that the pacing in Brilliant Diamond Shiny Pearl is much improved. I think that's the biggest improvement that I've seen when going into these remakes. Like, the Diamond and Pearl and even Platinum had some pretty bad pacing, all because of the HMs. Like, you had to alternate different slots in your party just to get around Sinnoh a little better, but in Brilliant Diamond Shiny Pearl, all the HMs are in the Pokédex now, and so you don't need to worry about swapping around team members to just accommodate for the HMs. You can just go at it normally, and it's honestly amazing. It feels so nice to not have to worry about HMs and in a region that was infamous for how reliant they were on, how heavily reliant it was on HMs. There we go. But another thing that I noticed when I was going through Route 210 is that, and even if one of the floors in Mount Coronet, is that the foggy weather condition in battles is gutted entirely, and instead, in its place, we get misty terrain just like Sword and Shield with its fog. So that's nice, but the fog is so freaking deep in these remakes that it's basically impossible to see. Like, you pretty much have to use defog if you want to see anything, which is kind of a toss-up, but the fog doesn't have to. We don't have to worry about the fog in battle anymore, so that is no doubt really nice. But apparently there's also a lot of glitches in these games. Like, apparently the void glitch is still in the game, which is kind of whack. Like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't intentional, but that's still pretty crazy. 15 years later, and the void glitch is still found in the remakes of Diamond and Pearl, which is absolutely, honestly hilarious. Movement in these games is honestly kind of wonky, though. Like, you can move with the D-pad like you could in the original and hold B to run, but of course you can use the analog stick which is the only way you can do diagonals. You can't do diagonals with the D-pad. Even Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but you do diagonals with the D-pad, which is kind of whack. And because most of the map was designed for a 2D game and not a 3D one, some things can be a little wonky. Like, particularly in the Snow Point City Gym, which is kind of broken in its current state, as it was discovered that there's a soft lock that could happen to you while you're trying to solve the puzzle, and which is kind of annoying because a soft lock in the gym is, well, a soft lock in any video game is never great. But luckily, BDSP does actually have a built-in feature that lets you revert back to a previous save by holding, I believe it's up XB on the title screen, and you can revert back to a previous save. But the Snowpoint Gym is pretty much one you gotta turn autosave off in order to not get softlocked, because if you do get softlocked, then you can just restart the game and then start back outside. And there's also a skip involving the game's movement, as which basically lets you go straight to Candace right from the entrance. As the way it happens is you slide all the way down to the platform before Candace like normal, but by continuously doing diagonals as you're trying to go up the slope, eventually the game will automatically line you up with the next tile, and it'll slide you right up, which is kind of crazy. Like, I was able to do it pretty easy. Like, I saw a clip of someone else doing this on Twitter, and I'm like, huh, that looks pretty easy, actually. So, I was just curious about it, and I was able to do it on, like, my third try. It was superbly easy. Now, I know there was a lot of concern involving the EXP share in this game and how it's going to make it too easy. I don't find it to be the case. Like, there were a couple times where I was a bit overleveled, but avoiding some trainers did help a lot. And but so far, I find the EXP share to actually be quite balanced. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying that they've been struggling with Cynthia. I have not, of course, seen any footage because I want to see all this for myself, but this is kind of refreshing and quite nice because, Diamond and Pearl actually had quite a bite, especially at the end, and it looks like BDSP is still going to have that bite, which is no doubt really nice. But like I said, the soundtrack, can't get enough of the soundtrack. Like Snow Point at Night is a freaking masterpiece. They did the August and Pokémon battle theme justice in this game. Spirit Pillar, amazing. Same goes for Mount Corner. Like, the entire soundtrack is excellent. Like I said, it's probably my favorite soundtrack of any Pokemon game. It's just so freaking good. But there is one thing that I actually do have quite a problem with, and that's the Pokemon distribution. Brilliant Diamond Shiny Pearl follows Diamond and Pearl's Pokedex as opposed to Platinum's, which is bad because, Diamond and Pearl was infamous for having bad Pokemon distribution. Like, there was only one fire type outside of the Chimchar line before you become champion. That's a problem. Like, sure, I'm biased toward Ponyta and Rapidash, but that doesn't excuse the fact that, having that be your only fire type if you don't choose Chimchar is kind of crazy. The Grand Underground does help a lot, as there's a lot more Pokemon found down there, but not every Pokemon from the Platinum Dex is found down there before you become champion, so you gotta keep that in mind. Like, Gligar can be caught before before you become champion, but you can't get the Razor Fang until after you become champion. And Eevee is completely in the post game, which is unbelievably stupid. Like, I wanted to use a Glaceon in my playthrough, but I spent quite a few days asking people around to, try to get an Eevee, and I tried to look around for a female one so I don't have to look for a Ditto as well. Luckily, someone in a group chat that I'm in on Twitter actually did manage to trade me a female Eevee, and I was able to breed a few and get myself a Glaceon, so that was nice. And then I had to grind it up because my team was like in the mid-40s by the time I finally got it. But hey, at least I got one. But yeah, the fact that I had to do that, it's kind of disappointing. Like, the Pokédex in BDSP is it's not good. I mean, there's a lot of obviously missing Pokemon that would have made this honestly even better, but trying to be faithful in that regard was honestly a bad move. It was honestly a really bad move. The story, it's still got the same gaps as Diamond and Pearl, which honestly is kind of disappointing. But overall, just the pacing in general is much better. The battles actually do, especially the major ones, do provide a bit of a bite, especially if this is your first time through. Like, I'm very happy with how these remakes have been so far. But I am on pace to actually finish the finished Brilliant Diamond tonight, so that's pretty fire. In fact, by the time you're seeing this, I will have probably already finished the main story of Brilliant Diamond. And I'll probably have started Shining Pearl, or at least started the post-game of Brilliant Diamond. Because I do want to get to Shining Pearl pretty soon. Like, ever since I got my Switch OLED back, I've been playing Brilliant Diamond on that. I did start Brilliant Diamond on my Switch Lite. But then I, obviously switched over to the Switch OLED. And, my god, the game looks absolutely amazing on the Switch OLED. The colors really pop. I can only imagine how it would have been if the game looked like how it was back in February, but obviously this is something that's for the better. But just imagine how vibrant it would have looked on the Switch OLED. But even in this state, the game looks absolutely fantastic. And honestly, I think I'm starting to prefer this aesthetic a little more. Like, say what you want about the chibis in the overworld, but in battles, it looks absolutely spectacular. And there's an actual slight level of detail even in the overworld, which is honestly really cool. I mean, Ilka just did a really nice job with these remakes, and I'm very thrilled with how these remakes have turned out, like I said. And I can easily see these becoming my most played games on Switch. Of course, that's going to be until Legends comes out in January, but we're going to have to wait a little over 2 months for that. In fact, by the time I need to check the calendar. Yeah, by the time this episode goes up, it will be exactly 2 months until the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus. That is freaking wild. Oh my god. This is crazy, and the holiday season is officially underway. Like, there is so much going on in so little time. This is honestly pretty overwhelming, but it's like the best time to be overwhelmed, even though the holidays can understandably be stressful for some people. But I'm still hyped. I gotta get started on my shopping. Actually, I'm sorry, what? Okay. All right. Is there anything else that I can add before we conclude? So Pokemon Masters. Before we actually do conclude, Masters is starting a new thing called Pokemon Masters Day, where for 1 day only on the 25th of each month, this event will give you, according to Cerebi, a variety of rewards for completion, like special 25 gem scout for 11 sync pairs, at least for this first one. Sounds like a cool idea. And apparently Pokemon Masters is going to have some holiday sync pairs as well. So that is pretty darn cool. I have not been keeping up with Masters news lately. Like, Brilliant Diamond has just been taking up all my time. It's just really, really fun, and it just feels really nice to go back to Sinnoh again. And what else is there I can really say? Because, oh my god, like, at long last the remakes are here, and I love them, honestly. There's just, I still can't get over this. Like, I'm just thrilled about these remakes. I'm speechless, really, because, we've been wanting these remakes for so long, and to think that they're finally coming out and they're actually here and we're actually playing them, like, it doesn't feel real, and yet it is, and I can't wrap my head around the fact that we actually have Diamond and Pearl remakes. Like, my inner Sinnoh stan is just absolutely thrilled about this whole thing. Now, I need to check Cerebi one last time, because I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, and I'm recording this on Black Friday itself, so that's fun. I actually did not go out and do any shopping because I hate crowds, and Black Friday, going out shopping on Black Friday, is basically the equivalent of asking to get robbed. Like, I legit feel bad for anyone that has to work in retail on Black Friday. Like, my condolences. Last weekend, I actually did see a new Shiny Raid event for Sword and Shield, which featured the evolutions, which included a chance to get Shiny Eevee or a Gigantamax Eevee. It started at the same time the BDSP was dropping, which is kind of funny. Also, that launch weekend was Shink's Community Day in Pokemon Go. I didn't do much because I was busy playing Brilliant Diamond, and I already had Shiny Shinx in Sword and Shield, so it wasn't really something that I wanted to prioritize that day. But hey, that rhymes. But I still got 3 to get the entire line in Shiny form, so that's cool in itself. And outside from that, I think that's all I have to say for this week. Another short episode. Honey, Sam, and Laurentia were unable to join us this week. Hopefully, they'll be able to do so next week. But with all that said, I want to thank you for tuning in. And until next time, through it all, we're still a family. We'll want you in a family.